All right, welcome back to my Europa channel. This is the Europa seen from the co-pilot side on the cockpit. I'm starting to work a little bit on the instrument panel. As you can see, it's mounted up here. I'll talk more about that later. And I don't recall what or when I did this. Sometime in the fall, I mounted the engine. So here you go. It is up front. It looks like a lot of work, and honestly it wasn't that much. Once I got the bulkhead finished, it was just a matter of bolting it on. Honestly, there's these bolts here, these isolator bolts, and then these 4 bolts up here that connect to the Rotax ring mount. And down under here, got the exhaust fitted. That was pretty easy. Just a couple springs per cylinder, and then the mounting of the radiators and the shroud for that. So you can see there's the 2 radiators, and off to the other side. Like I said, it looks like a lot of work to mount the engine, and honestly it just kind of went together. I do have a few things to show in the back. I would say the hardest thing about getting this whole thing forward were these, I don't know if you can see them, the springs for the nose gear. That was not easy. Right there it is. So for that, I had to, like the manual says, you use a jack to separate the springs. I had some steel rod that separated the springs and kept them separated, I guess you could say, and then put it on there. And impatient as I am, without the engine mounted, I sat on the front here and bounced up and down until all those pieces clinged out of those clanked on the floor, I guess you could say, out of those springs, and then I knew they were out. It was not an easy job. It's kind of, I don't know, kind of a pain. But all right, so I'm starting to fit the electrical. This is a faux battery, if you will, by EarthX. This is the 680 profile, and so just bought this dummy battery to go in place so I can figure out where I want to put the EarthX battery. I've learned a lot about it studying on overvoltage protection in the battery itself, and then some of the things that I need to do to prevent that system from turning on to protect the battery. So more about that later when I get into the nitty-gritty of the electrical. But as you can see, I am mocking up the placement of the wires off the master solenoid and the starter relay. And to the starter, I have the original low torque or low output starter. I need to probably upgrade that in the future. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm running the hoses, trying to figure out the best run for that. These are the original hoses from Europa with the Firewall forward kit. So they still feel nice and pliable. They don't feel aged out at all. So I'm contemplating changing them out with silicone. It's just, I guess, figuring out what type to get with the connectors you need to make it all fit properly to the radiators that are down there. You can see the radiator bosses for the coolant and for the oil, and you can see the oil tank here. We've got the oil return line on the bottom of the engine. I put this angle on here for the oil input line to the oil pump. These are your choke and throttle connectors. As you can see here, if anybody recognizes that, that's for a constant speed prop, which I plan to put on. This engine was already set up for a hydraulically governed constant speed prop. And when I called the company that produces the two-blade prop, they no longer manufacture that propeller, so they told me to look elsewhere. So I'm looking at E-props from France, and they have a solution for an already existing hydraulic governor mount to hook up to an E-prop, a carbon fiber propeller. So haven't ordered that yet, but that's what I'm researching. I need to figure out the propeller flange distance to the hub. So that'll be something down the road, not too far, hopefully. The choke modification that Bud Yearly has well documented on his website, clubcrafters.com. He highly suggests replacing the plastic choke fitting there that will strip off of the threads with something from a hardware store that is basically a drawer fitting, metallic. The problem is the thread type on this choke shaft is British standard. So in America, we can't, it's very hard to find taps for that. The internet has them, which was my source, but you'll probably pay a pretty penny for it. This is the tap for it, and it's a BSF quarter 26. And after drilling out the center there, just tap it and it threads right on. And gives a nice solid connection. Haven't hooked it up yet to the carburetors to give it a test, but I did earlier with the plastic one, and it's a bear. It's not easy to pull on that. It doesn't feel like it would last long with the plastic. So I purchased this Firewall Grommet. That is basically where I'm going to run all my wires through. So drilled a hole through both faces here and inserted this, and when that's all connected, I'll have a firewall exit point for the wires, and then I'll use some heat tubing to restrict any kind of flame that would come back through into the cockpit. This isn't finished all the way. I'll maybe do a short video on doing that, but basically there is a clamp, or I don't even know what to call it, but almost like a lock washer. It goes over this and holds that tight against that surface, so it's not going to go anywhere. And where I sourced that from is a place called Experimental Aero online. It was a little kit, came all together. You see the press there to help press on the lock washer, I'll call it, and the fire sleeve and all that. Of course, you could probably source all of this and make it yourself. I just came across it and thought, what the heck, I'll just go ahead and order it, because all the hardware was there. And anyway, that is pretty much it from bringing you up to speed on the Europa. Haven't worked on it really that much through the winter. I think I did all of this in October, November time frame, and then the holidays hit and cold weather, and now it is February, and so it's a little bit warmer the later part of the month, so I've been thinking about coming out and working on it some more.
Tune in for the next video where I'll be terminating the ignition cables. Thank you for watching.